Today, I'd like to show you the basics of throwing a jerkbait, guys. You guys may already know it. Just flatter me and smile and say, great job, whatever. If not, I want to show you a few basic things on throwing a jerkbait. A little bit about a jerkbait. A jerkbait's going to be a bait that you've got to have water visibility. And what I mean by that is you got to have cleaner, clearer water. You know, if Grand gets blowed out like it did that one year when we had the Classic, jerkbait's not going to be a factor. You know, just don't even waste your time with it. And when I say water visibility, somebody raise your hand. How much water visibility do you think we need to have for a jerkbait? Yes, sir. 4 feet's great. That's plenty. What's the minimum? What would you guys say the minimum is on a jerkbait? Yes, sir. A foot. That's a great answer. I'd say a foot is the bare minimum. And when I'm talking about water clarity, just so you guys know, when you take a white bait, whatever it is, and you stick it in the water like this, when you lose sight of it at a foot, that's what I'm talking about. So how muddy is that pond you're fishing, Dax? Pretty muddy. Do you have a foot? But not, it's a cow pond, I'm guessing, looking at them pictures. So that's what I want you to think about. When you get to the lake, you know, there's things that I always check. Water visibility, water temperature, those are going to be big critical things, and also what that water temperature is doing prior to you getting there. So a foot, 1.5 foot visibility is a must. When you get to 2 foot visibility, 2.5, it's perfect. Like, that's game on jerkbait water. The other thing, what pound test do we want to have tied on our jerkbait? What? 10, you're exactly right, 10. Do we want to have monofilament, braid, or fluorocarbon? Huh? Fluorocarbon, yes. Why? Huh? Yes, sir. It doesn't stretch. That's a great characteristic of fluorocarbon. It doesn't have as much stretch. That's one reason. What's another reason we want to have fluorocarbon on it? There's no wrong answers in here, guys. We're all learning. So it sinks. Did I hear somebody say it sinks? It helps it sink? Great job, Drake. Man, I got to give you a high five, buddy. Thank you. Thank you. Good job, dude. All right. It sinks, or it doesn't, it's not buoyant. So a big part of a jerkbait is getting it down to the fish. I mean, these fish, like at the Red Crest last year when I was fishing Grand, you know, a lot of those fish were like 15, 18 feet deep over the top. Who's been casting my rod? There's a backlash in here. Gavin? Huh? Adam? I think it was. You know, a big thing about getting a jerkbait is getting the depth out of it, guys. The deeper you can get it, a lot of times, you know, now with active target and, you know, sonar and live scope and all that stuff, you can see how deep your bait's getting, and fluorocarbons is a component that helps get it deeper because it's not buoyant. It'll help drag your bait down. You can see that bait, it's going to end up almost being on the bottom in a very short amount of time. I like that. I think there's different jerkbaits, you know, all kinds of different jerkbaits, but that helps me get that bait deeper, and it's got the stock hooks on it. I got my box over there that I actually used at Grand, and you'll notice in there I got a lot of jerkbaits that's got a little bit bigger hooks on it, like a number 5. Man, I was able to get that, and I did that so I could get that bait a little bit deeper, a little bit quicker. Some of those spots I was catching fish off of, I don't remember what day it was deep, and I'd just sit there and let that thing sink and sink and sink and sink. Yeah, like this one right here. You can see it's got bigger hooks on it. That one's bent out. See, it's got bigger hooks. That bait's going to sink even faster than this bait because it's got a little bit bigger hooks. Another way you can do that, if you don't have hooks, add a little suspend strip to it, or lead wire. You know, they make some lead wire that you can buy at Bass Pro. You can just wrap a little bit of it around a hook. Now each jerkbait's gonna be different. You know, like this jerkbait here, it's white. This jerkbait right here is clear. With this one having white paint on it, it's gonna be a lot heavier than this clear one. This bait will not sink. This bait actually suspends, and they're the exact same bait, same brand, same everything, but this bait suspends with the stock hooks on it, or almost floats. So you gotta put really bigger hooks on this one because it doesn't have the weight of the paint. So just because you buy whatever jerkbait you buy, doesn't mean they're all gonna suspend the same. It doesn't. All of them, they're all that way. Megabass, Berkley, McSpros, Lucky Crafts, they all suspend differently according to the paint job, because a lot of these paint jobs, there's layers. You know, like they'll paint the white layer, then they paint the black, and then they'll paint the orange. So that's 3 different layers, that's 3 different pieces of weight that they're adding to that bait. So keep that in mind when you're doing it.
Well, what's a suspend strip, Coach?
What's a suspend strip? Storm makes suspend strips and suspend dots. You see any baits with one on there?
Right.
Yeah, I got one right there. That's a suspend dot. I've got 1 or 2 on there, okay? They just stick on there. It's made of lead. You can use it on crankbaits. You can use it on jerkbaits.
Coach, do I put it in the middle or on the nose or on the tail?
Everybody see it? Got it, Drake? So, good question, Coach Salt. Where do you put it? I'm gonna put it towards the front of the bait. I want my bait to just be down a little bit, because if I got it down a little bit, I'm able to get it deeper by each jerk. If you put it towards the back, then it's gonna sit like this. When you jerk it, it's gonna jerk up. I don't want it too far. I don't want it sitting like this. I want to try to get the bait to sit like this. That way when I jerk it, it's gonna go down, go down. I don't want it like this, and I don't really want it like this. It's okay if it floats back up like this. That's a really good jerk bait. But if I can get it to sit like this, let me show you in the water. You can see that's just sitting a little bit nose down. And as you jerk it each time, that's gonna get it down deeper. A jerkbait's gonna be a bait, guys, that I wanna challenge everybody in here. If you're wanting to become a better fisherman, with the sonars that we have now, get good and efficient with a jerkbait, because we're learning, it's a year-round bait, guys. Like, they won a big tournament on Lake Fork in the fall on a jerkbait. You know, it's just a bait that we can catch those suspended fish on active target. Yes, sir. Question was, how do I decide if I want one that sinks, suspends, or floats? It's all about how deep I'm trying to get it. So, you know, I'm going to Florida here in a week, and I'm gonna have grass probably 4 foot deep. I want one that almost is buoyant or floats, you know, to where I jerk it down to that grass, it can float out of that grass. I jerk it back down, it goes out of that grass. That's why you see this, I got an older one in here. That bait right there floats. That's just why it's in there. If I needed something for shallow for it to float. So if suspend, I would use a suspending one. If, you know, most jerk baits you can get down to 6, 8 feet fairly quick. If I'm fishing brush piles that are, say, 8 feet deep on top of it, or 10 feet deep, you know, that's kind of when I want one that suspends, you know, or pretty neutral. If I'm trying to get one down to a brush pile that's 12, 15 feet on top of it, that's when I want one that sinks. Does that answer your question? Rod and reel. I've got it on a 6/8 medium action rod. This is the rod I use all the time. I like it a lot. It's kind of got a short handle on it. I don't know, I just like it. One key, I think, with fishing a jerkbait, if you do not have active target and you're randomly out there trying to cast and get a bait down, I've always said the further you can cast a jerkbait, the deeper you can get it, okay? The exception to that is if you are using active target, and let's say you've got a brush pile 40 feet away, you don't have to make that far a cast. Make your cast at 60, 70 feet, watch your bait get down to it, and you don't have to make that long cast. But if you're just regularly fishing it, you don't have to. So like when I go to throw it out there, I gotta find my bait, it's already at the bottom. My baits sink, I just like them that sink. Super important, your first cast, make sure that jerkbait is running straight. When I go to reel that thing in, I wanna reel it in fast, I'm making sure it runs straight, okay? If it's not running straight, one thing, always put your knot where that split ring comes together. Don't put it outside of that split ring, because the reason is, if you got it outside that split ring, sometime or another you get a bite, that split ring is going to be hitting that guy, this eye. Okay, does everybody know what I'm talking about on split ring? It's one piece of wire and there's two ends that meet. I want my knot right there where those two ends meet. Because if I have it over here on this side, or this side, when I jerk it, where those two ends meet, can hit the eye of that jerkbait, and if it's hitting it, then it's gonna cause it to go to the side. A lot of times when you got a crankbait or a jerkbait that's not running straight, it's because your knot is not in the right spot on that split ring. So tie it in the middle of that split ring, and then you can assure yourself that that thing's gonna run straight when you bring it in. Does everybody make sense? Okay. All right, so we make our long cast. I'm gonna get that thing and I'm gonna start jerking the snot out of it, and I'm gonna get it down to what I feel like's maximum depth, 4 or 5 jerks. And I'm on the shallow end of the pool, and so I'm pretty much already on the bottom. But a couple things that I want you to keep in mind on a jerkbait. It's so critical that you're stationary. I don't want my boat going this way. I don't want my boat going this way. I don't want my boat moving, because I have got to make that bait sit still, and if my line is tight in any way at all, I'm moving that bait. Does that make sense? Everybody hear me okay? Okay, so number one thing, be sure you're stationary, okay? Get that bait down, snap it down, and then you'll notice when I snap it, I'm letting that slack go back out, and then I give it a half reel. So I've got a slight bow right there in my line. I don't know if you can see that, but that's really critical, guys. You don't want it tight, because if I have it tight, like if I have it tight the whole time, I'm moving that bait. That bait's moving. Like if my line's tight, I'm trying to feel it, like you're worm fishing and you're trying to feel your bait, well, you're moving the bait. It's not being stationary. It's not doing what you want it to do. And a big part of the jerkbait is being stationary and suspended. Like that bass is down there thinking, man, it's not moving. I think I might be able to catch it. You know, I mean, you're making that fish mad. So the longer, it can sit. So it's really critical to be sitting still and have a little bit of slack in your line, just enough that you're not moving that bait when you're pausing it. The other thing that you need to really pay attention to, once you start working that bait, and this is without active target, count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, then jerk again. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Figure out how long you've got to wait till you get a bite. And I'll start at like 2 or 3,000. I'll go to 4 to 6,000, go to 8 to 10,000. So without active target, you're pausing that bait, and what that bait a lot of times is doing is sinking slowly, and it's telling you how active those fish are. Does that make sense what I'm talking about? Okay, so figure out how long you're gonna pause your bait. So each cast you're making in the morning, till you get a bite, you're counting on your pauses, okay? The other thing on a jerkbait, so if I throw it out there a long ways, where is the target? I just made this long cast. Where do you think I think the fish should be? Answer me, Taylor. What? In the middle, okay? So always think about, if that brush pile, that rock pile, the end of that dock, think about where you think that bass is at. Because I do not want somebody to have to work that bait all the way back to the boat at an 8-second pause. You jerk it 2-3 times, pause for 8 seconds. It would be an eternity. So this is a bait that I'm going to work in a distance, say, from me to Coach Salt. So that's my target distance. I'm going to jerk it 4 or 5 times with my pauses, and then I'm going to reel it back in, and I'm going to target my next target. Does everybody make sense on that? It's a bait that I don't work all the way in. Does it make sense? Okay. High speed reel. The only reason I want a high speed reel is so I can take that slack up quickly, okay? So I jerk it. If I got my slack I got my little bit of bow in my line, man, what happens? Like when you get a bite, I watch my line, guys. So critical, watch that line. Because I'm sitting there and I'm watching my line. You're not gonna feel the bite. You're gonna see your line jump, move, get tight. That's when you take the slack up and you just lean into them. It's not a big worm, Grady Vogel hook set. I've been in the boat with you. You don't have to come out of your shoes. Remember, we got 10-pound test. We got treble hooks. Yes, sir.
Where would I start to look to throw this first?
Great question.
This time of year.
Coach Salt asked, where would we start to throw this thing first? So
Do I have to fish a brush pile, Coach? Or can I fish rocks, points, edge of docks? What am I looking for?
For me personally, it's going to be different for you guys when you develop your own style and patterns. A jerkbait to me is object. I'm fishing an object. I'm fishing a stump. I'm fishing a brush pile. I'm fishing an individual rock. I am fishing the end of a dock. I'm fishing a bridge piling. I am fishing something in the water. I'm not fishing from here to there in the water. To me, I'd rather do something else. You guys can throw an Alabama rig, okay? So if I am not sure where that something is in the water, Alabama rig, okay? Because you can chunk it out all the way across this pool, and you can reel it all the way back, and you might get a bite here, and you might get one out there. That's gonna be the next bait we talk about. So for me, a jerkbait is for those days that you can't get them to bite the Alabama rig. I feel like that's when this bait's gonna come into play. If we got a bright bluebird, post-front conditions, we got not much wind, or they're just not biting it. Or you see them out there on active target, they're coming up on it. When Grady was fishing the other day, he had a lot of them come up and not get it. You know, that's maybe when you're gonna sit down, you're gonna have that jerkbait tied on as a follow-up bait. And it's a team tournament, guys, keep that in mind. Hey, Gavin, Big G, you throw the Alabama rig, Little G, you throw the jerkbait. I mean, alternate. I mean, use your partner to your advantage throughout the day. Logan, you throw one, have your buddy throw the other one. Does that make sense? Like, you guys get them figured out as you're going. That's really, really important. Colors. There's thousands of colors out there, guys. Remember, the number one thing you're imitating, the only thing you're imitating is a shad, okay? Shad. You're imitating a shad. So think about that when you go to tie one on. This bait right here, what's that imitating? Perch, bluegill, great answer, buddy. I have that in my box in case I go up north where they don't have shad, okay? That's not a bait that you're gonna throw here at Grand, I'm just sorry. I would throw that maybe around a bluegill spawn or around when they're spawning. But day in, day out, 3 or 4 colors that I want you to have. Just a white bait with a dark back or a chrome back or a blue back, just something white, solid. That's gonna be a bait when I've got that 1 foot visibility, that 1.5 foot visibility. I got really cloudy days. It's just a bait that you're gonna wanna have, just in darker water, darker conditions. That's a bait you're gonna wanna have. A see-through style bait, like this one. I love this color when it's really clear, sunny conditions. Great bait. I mean, it's really, really phenomenal. I made a mistake. I don't have my favorite color in here. I don't know how I don't, but I just don't. I have a color called Stealth Shad. It's got a green back see-through and a chartreuse side. It's kind of like a chartreuse shad almost, but it's see-through. That's a great color. But just have something shad related, solid colors, solid baits, darker water, cloudier conditions. See-through baits, clearer water, sunnier conditions. Just remember, that's all you got to remember, okay? Keep it simple. You don't need 20 different colors. You need about 3 or 4, and you can go compete on Grand, 10 Killer, Oologah, anywhere you want to go compete. So keep it really simple, guys. I want you more to have 10-pound test. I want you to have the right line, the right rod, the right action. I want you to sit still. You do all those things, man, a bass is going to eat your bait. I promise you. If he's not eating your bait, a lot of times it's not because of the color. It's just truly not. There's something else that's wrong. So, okay, any questions about a jerkbait? None, huh? Man, you guys are like, got it all, right? Seriously, no questions? Okay.